is Rooted in Currituck, a journey back through growing up and in Currituck County, North Carolina. Produced by the Currituck County Center of North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I'm Cameron Lowe, your County Extension Director.
And I'm Olivia Patchell, your Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent.
Awesome. In today's episode of Rooted in Currituck, we'll hear from Rodney Sawyer, former Currituck County Extension Director, and my dad. And later in our podcast, we'll offer you some training on variety trials and field demonstrations conducted by Extension. But for now, let's step back in time to a segment we like to call From the Archives. So Rodney Sawyer started his career in the Currituck Extension Office in the 1970s. So I thought it would be appropriate to read the following recap of what was happening during that decade. And this article is actually a part of a series we did during the centennial celebration of North Carolina Cooperative Extension, which was held way back in 2014. So I'll just read a little bit, and then we'll discuss some of the items that are in the article. So as the United States was preparing to celebrate her bicentennial in the 1970s, Cooperative Extension in Currituck County was celebrating firsts and milestones as well. And then the article lists several of the people that were serving during the decade, which included Minton Small, Louise Capps, Faye Thorpe, Linda Nash, Judy Lathan, Jerry Hardesty, Sharon Sanderson, Vernon Garrett, Alice Chapman, Lenore Farrell, Ronnie Spatch, Jessica Tice, Georgia Kite, Mary Sue Wright Baker, and Rodney Sawyer. So, Olivia, you've been here just over 10 years, almost 11. Any of those names familiar to you?
Oh, yeah. A lot of them are familiar to me. But I've got some really good volunteers out of that list, for sure.
Absolutely. They left quite a legacy here at Extension in Currituck. We still use a lot of the things that they left behind, and we still use them as volunteers for valuable things today, too. So, pretty awesome. So to continue, the population of Currituck County in 1970 was nearly 7,000 and had risen to nearly 10,000 by 1975. So we were a little bit smaller then than we are today. There was a great deal of out-migration due to local job shortages, and about 1 in 3 Currituck County workers commuted to jobs outside the county. Another 1 in 3 Currituck County workers were employed in agricultural jobs, and the chief source of agricultural income was from swine in the 1970s.
That's kind of hard to imagine.
I know. Yeah, so there were more pigs than people.
Yeah.
During that decade, which was pretty wild. So during that decade, Currituck County had over 100,000 hogs. Far more pigs than people.
Yeah.
Which is really wild. So many of the issues identified in the 1970s centered around limited recreational opportunities for youth, the need for additional nutrition education for low-income families, and better waste management practices among farmers.
Well, that's understandable because that's a lot of hogs.
It is a lot of waste, yeah, to have to figure out what to do with. But a lot of those issues are really pretty similar to the things that we still deal with today, aside from the hog waste. So to continue, I'll skip ahead just a little bit. We had the Expanded Foods and Nutrition Education Program, which did nutrition education for low-income seniors. Of course, we no longer have that program, but we still actually address that need, don't we?
Yeah, so we no longer have what's called FNEP in Currituck County. It serves other counties, but we do stuff with the senior centers and the schools through our wonderful PA here at the Extension office. Maybe you'll see her out and about sometime.
That's right. Absolutely. So we still meet that need as well. So I'm going to skip ahead to 1975. In 1975, A.B. Coleman donated 140 acres over a 10-year no-cost lease to Currituck County 4-H for the development of a camp for young people and their families. Now, I've been in Currituck all my life, and I heard lots of stories about Camp Coleman and Mr. Coleman himself, and so that was developed in 1975. I actually did get the opportunity to attend Camp Coleman at least once during my lifetime, so that was exciting for me. And actually, I think Rodney started his career with Currituck Extension as a camp counselor at Camp Coleman, so
comes full cycle.
Comes right around, that's right. Thousands of Currituck County youth learned to swim, became acquainted with 4-H, and found a recreational outlet and developed an appreciation for the beauty that is Currituck thanks to Camp Coleman. And it was during that era that enrollment in support for 4-H soared, donations allowed for the purchase of a 4-H bus to transport children throughout the county to the camp. We have the 4-H vans. We have had vans over the years, and we have lovingly named them Big Green.
Yes.
But Olivia, I do remember that bus was a big green and white school bus.
We need another big green and white school bus.
I think so. It was good memories there.
Yeah.
The old big green and white school bus. There was no recreation department in 1975, so 4-H led the way in providing meaningful and healthy activities for the youth of Currituck County. So we were providing the services for youth recreation. And at Camp Coleman, there was swimming, sailing, canoeing, tennis, softball, archery, volleyball, basketball, shuffleboard, horseshoes, primitive camping, a horseback riding ring, a bathhouse, and a pier.
Wow. I would have loved to go on there as a kid.
It was pretty fancy.
Yeah.
Simple, but, lots of opportunity because it was right there on the water. As with all 4-H activities and programs, it was open to everybody and utilized by all youth, regardless of race, income, or social status. And that's something that we pride ourselves on at Cooperative Extension, being open to everybody. Now, since the 70s, of course, Camp Coleman is closed. That happened in 85 or 86. There was a fire. It burnt down. There were some issues with the lease. We couldn't renew that lease. And so we did some needs assessments during that time with the citizens of the county and learned that they would really prefer that we go into the communities with our day camping program. And so that's when we started kind of the camping roadshow. So we did day camps all throughout the community. We kind of flashed back to that last year and began doing a little bit of that in Knott's Island and over on the mainland. And hopefully we'll be able to continue with some of that in 4-H today. So that's just kind of, I just wanted to read back over what was going on in the 70s and kind of give the folks an overview of, where things started in the Rodney era.
Yeah.
Since we're going to listen to him give his interview here in just a few minutes. So you've met Rodney. What do you think? It's a loaded question, isn't it?
It is, especially since he's coming up next. But, he's a valuable resource, and it's great to pick his mind. He always has something he would like me to do every time he comes in.
Yes. Lots of constructive suggestions, for sure.
He has ideas on how we should work, but he doesn't, I don't know if he doesn't take it to heart or he just doesn't say when we don't follow through on some of his ideas.
Right. Yeah, he has plenty of ideas, and he drops them and he leaves them, and he leaves it up to us to pick which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. So I value that too. I value his advice very greatly, an excellent sounding board. And things like that. So that's really it for From the Archives. So up next, we'll meet our guest. So now we'll have our interview segment with Mr. Rodney Sawyer, former County Extension Director here in Currituck County.
So could you tell me your name and how long have you lived in Currituck?
My name is Rodney Sawyer. I'm a 10th generation Currituckian. And I'm 64 years old.
So all your life?
Yeah.
Yep. So I can't ask this question as if you just arrived here, but what are some of the memories that you have growing up as a child here? Let's talk about that and what the county was like a little bit back then.
It's quite different than what I grew up with. It was a very rural county with a 2-lane highway. Most of the secondary roads were dirt roads at that time. And I could ride my bicycle all over from Currituck to Coin Jock without seeing a car. And so now traffic, tourism, 5-lane highway, quite a difference. It was probably, I think that there were 6,000 people in the county when I was in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So significantly smaller. And those families were all related somehow. The clans and communities were all based around families, so you knew everybody.
Right.
And, that's the rural country nature. They also knew you, and you didn't get away with much because they would tell your parents, everybody got the word out. It was a different way to go.
That's true. So where did you go to school at elementary?
I went to Griggs Elementary School. The county was divided by the bridge, and then they came north of the bridge to Maple Road. That was the dividing line. If you were north of Maple Road, you went to Moyock. If you were south, you went to Griggs. So I was on the tail end, so we rode the bus about an hour first one to get on the bus and ride to Griggs School. And it was a wonderful school. I went to kindergarten there, and that was a beginning program. I was the first group of kindergartners in Currituck County, and it was a private kindergarten at a public school.
Oh, okay.
Miss Sarah Gilden was the teacher.
All right.
She was retired. She came back to do the kindergarten classes, and everybody from the county could go. You didn't have to be in a certain area.
Right. Oh, so back then it was Griggs and Moyock, and those were the elementary schools?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Originally, Knapp was an elementary school as well, but then in 1960 that became a high school. Griggs was a K through 12. Moyock was same thing, 1st through 12.
Oh, okay.
And when Knapp came in, after they moved it from an elementary school to a high school, that took over as one high school. Other than Currituck Union, which is now Central Elementary School, was the black school.
Oh, And that was called Currituck Union. I did not know that. I went to school there.
Yeah, I was the first group of white students to go to that school. I was in the 8th grade.
That was my experience there. It was a elementary to a middle school, so it was up to 8th grade. Yep. So you have a farm history as well in your life, don't you?
Yeah. My beginnings as a farm child, my father was a farmer, and of course in Currituck it was farming, fishing, sports, hunting, or there was nothing else to do. And the only other option for men or families was the Ford plant. We worked there until the assembly plant closed down. The naval shipyard, different places and venues like that, but everybody was a farmer. I started in 4-H when I was 9 years old. 4-H was in the schools from 1930s to 1960. 1960, 4-H came out of the schools and they started the community club program. And I was 9 years old, and they started a program in Coinjock and Barco. It was called the Twin Cooperators 4-H Club. Real original name, huh? Cheryl Brown, Taylor, and Minton Small were the agents who came and helped us get started. And I was enamored with 4-H, stayed in it my lifetime. We've got 4 generations in our family of 4-Hers, and we're being recognized as the 4-H Family of the Year for North Carolina this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Congratulations.
Yeah, excited. And so I became the charter member of the first 4-H Hall of Fame, which was a big honor and surprise to me. I had no clue. But that was around agriculture. We farmed. Currituck was originally on the lower end of the county truck crops, and they were shipping potatoes and sweet potatoes and snap beans. Even gladiolas and asters were grown there and shipped all over. The middle and northern parts of the county became the grain areas, corn, soybeans, wheat, and now that's primarily all the county does.
Okay, so there was some more diversity back then in the products.
A lot more. And in livestock county, we were big in livestock, particularly there were 2 registered cattle farms when I was growing up. One in Moyock, the Jarvises, had a Hereford herd. The Grays, a prominent family that owned Bell's Island, the entire thing, had an Angus farm and introduced that here. And that made it through North Carolina. A lot of 4-H kids got their steers from there to show. And there's some pictures of that in the Extension Center.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of that. So it's a little bit different now, and you've had experiences through your experiences as 4-H and farming, but then you've really dedicated your life to education in this community. Would you like to share a little bit about what you've seen over the years?
When Georgia Kite and myself retired, we came back to write up some historical things about Currituck, and it's amazing what you've accomplished. You don't realize it until it's past. And we were writing up information about Currituck first and what extension really started in Currituck. People are not aware of that. And it's interesting, electricity was brought to the county by extension agents and volunteers. The telephone, mattresses, all these things. And so as we were writing that up and just, really enamored at how many things have happened through extension work, we started to look at our own accomplishments and we were like, dang, we got some stuff. We've made some accomplishments for this county, and it really kind of humbles you. And don't toot your own horn ever, but I'm amazed that we've accomplished a lot, and extension is strong here. It really is strong.
It is, and I'm glad to hear that it's going strong. So as far as farming back then, I kind of want to go back to that because we were talking about a little bit of the diversity in the crops and maybe some local big family farms, but we're not necessarily that kind of a farming community anymore. So
in the 50s, there were 534 farmers in Currituck County. When I started work in 1979, there were 200 farmers. Today, there's less than 60 farm operators. That doesn't even mean active, on the tractor farmers, but they operate a farm. I would imagine there are more farm owners than 60, but the number diminishes all the time. Development's taking over. The ability to make income. Estate planning is huge. You have people who are inheriting farms that don't want a farm. And so what do you do with that property if you can't pay the taxes? You can sell it and be really rich. So that's competing for it. The crops have changed. The cultural practices have changed in farming. So I would say it's gone more to large and corporate farming instead of the small farmer. But I see right now a surge backwards to small farming. People are getting in. Well, it starts with the home chicken flock.
They're everywhere these days.
People are getting more and more interested. Canning has become more popular than it ever was 10 years ago. Food preservation. And I think COVID is going to drive some of that as well, because when supplies are limited, people want to grow them. You'll see more gardens coming about. And then you got to learn how to preserve all the produce that you've generated. So if you're like our home, we grow more tomatoes than we can eat, so you've got to can them or throw them out if you can't find somebody else to take them. And that's kind of a trend that I really see happening. The one thing in agriculture that made agriculture in Currituck was the on-farm demonstration. It really is the backbone of how 4-H got started. 4-H started with 4-H corn clubs for boys, canning clubs for girls. And they put into practice the things that agents recommended and outproduced their parents. So that sort of got things kicked in the way, and on-farm demonstrations became popular then. They're still being done today. But I think the demonstration method is lost in extension work and needs to be revived. If you have, for example, 10 families who will put into practice a recommendation for, say, a rain barrel and water savings and, irrigation for their plants, and what that does, and they give you the results, and 10 more families will start the very next year. So, yeah, all those things, and I don't care what the medium is, if you do use that method, even though it's an old method, it tends to work. It's when I see you learn by doing and it works, I want some of it too.
I think that is a very interesting thing to say, because we have so many video connections. Exactly. And I know Extension has done a great job with that, but I think your neighbor doing it and telling you about it is much stronger than just seeing it on YouTube.
Social media aspect of all education is important. Here in Currituck, they've done a good job of getting out there and staying connected through social media and doing their programs, because people are going to look to that. COVID, it's made that even bigger and more important. They're not coming out to go to the meeting when they can watch it from the comfort of their own home and interact. Podcast, it's the same thing. So it's a different world, but you got to find a way to help people. And the thing about it is, farming is here to stay. We got to have food. But in Currituck, the appreciation for farming has to be increased. And we cannot lose all our farmland to development. We don't have industry to support the taxes. Tourism is our number one supporter. Agriculture has always been the number one economic impact in Currituck. It's still significant, but it's surpassed by tourism. And we've got to appreciate it. You know, we need some recognition for it. The event today, the Farm Festival, is great to bring people out and make them aware of what farmers do. And they're a small group, but they feed a lot of people.
They do, and it's an important aspect of any rural community, and so many in North Carolina.
One of the things, you asked about agriculture, and I know that today is about that. I'm going to talk about all kinds of things.
You can hit all the topics.
Agriculture,
this is one of them, yeah.
People don't realize how vast it is. They think it's just tractors and crops, but it's all aspects. It's landscaping, it's the commercial aspects of pesticides, it's dealing with design and implementation of landscapes and development. So there's still a lot of people involved. It's probably the biggest industry. We just don't realize that, for example, forestry is a part of agriculture. And trees are part of agriculture, and they're managed just like a crop, and people sell that timber.
Yeah, and having the understanding that young people today have more options, that working with the land and with and plants and providing food and or other needed services through agriculture is really important.
I mean, even flowers, right? I mean, even flowers. And you know, herbs and spices and all those things. That's becoming a popular thing. And I see more and more young couples are interested in doing that on 5 acres. And it's possible to do it. The farmers markets were unique to Currituck County. And that's a big thing to know. In 1939, Miss Elizabeth Sanderlin helped get the market started here. And she was the home agent. And she was actually working for FHA, Farmers Home Administration at the time. And women were the first roadside markets. They sold their goods from the garden, and they sold their cakes, and they sold their wares to help supplement the family income. And it took off.
Yeah, well, Currituck is such a long county. It's not like you have a central market space. We had to do something different, I guess.
We don't have that farmers market that's
right.
a cooperative. We have our individual markets that are, you know, profitable. But when I started work, we had a designated agent who only did that, worked with farmers markets. And we had 21 in Currituck. And that's including Gibbs and Knott's Island. And now our number is a little bit smaller, but they're coming back. Like, new markets are emerging, and grow your own, pick your own. You know, people are getting into that, and it's a popular venue. The other thing is growing more on less acres has become pretty much a standard. Production continues to increase year after year because of research and technology and new developments, and so it's possible. But my thing is, we've got to have green space and open space, and it's been talked about with commissioners, with government and the state and even the nation about farm preservation, and they've set up conservation districts, and they're looking at ways to keep farm land in different regions, and they actually pay so that the farmer doesn't sell out.
Right.
I mean, you get tax incentives. It's not like you're making a living, but you're able to keep it based on those things, much like historic preservation.
All right. That's interesting. I did not know that. Before I let you go, because I could talk to you forever about a lot of things, I would like to know, as you're looking at the future of Currituck, what are some of the things that you're very excited about as we move forward?
You know,
because we're changing, and we are. It's a different place.
I'm excited about the development of tourism. We have long been promoting it, but not doing much development. The new Maritime Museum is a great example of we are doing something. I want to see that for agriculture. And we need a museum that promotes agriculture, and so that people can see what it is and what it's done. And there's lots of antique stuff that people want to donate, and we need to put that into place. The other thing, I want to say this because I'm sitting across from you. I have known so many young people through the 4-H program that have gone on and prospered and even become agents. And it's pretty awesome to me to see that kind of impact transfer and watch those children grow. And I think the 4-H program is number one here.
Oh, absolutely. I can, without getting too emotional, it definitely made a difference in my life for so many things. And my experience as an agent for a short time was a really heartfelt. As soon as you get into that program, you are part of the family wherever you are. It's like you're native to that one place. But my teaching skills and my love for learning, making the best better.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'll come back and do another one day.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Yeah.
That was Rodney Sawyer, former County Extension Director for Currituck County. And up next, we'll have our training for today. So joining us for our training for today is Agriculture Agent Adam Fermella.
Hi. It's good to be here.
Good. I'm glad you're here, Adam. So in his interview, Rodney talked about the importance of establishing extension demonstration sites. And I feel like this is something that specifically our agriculture program here in Currituck does really well. So I wanted to get some training from you today on exactly what that is and what types of demonstrations we conduct, those kinds of things.
So we have a kind of a wide variety because our county is growing in population. So we have the traditional ag demonstrations, and then we also have some home horticulture, gardening type demonstrations as well. So from an agriculture side, kind of the big thing that we do every year is variety trials. And what that is a way to show the farmers on their farms the different types or the different varieties of seed and kind of how they can compare to each other. So we do it for our corn, for our soybeans, and then recently we've been doing them for wheat as well.
So do varieties change every year? I mean,
yeah, so the companies that sell the seed are constantly changing the varieties. They turn over every 2 to 3 years. You're going to get kind of a different set of varieties. Now, you have some varieties that have been around forever. They're kind of the standard that you compare against. But the companies are changing up varieties because some things maybe have a higher potential for yield, and that's just because they've kind of done the breeding of the plants to say this one does better in our area or whatever. So I work with a group called the Northeast Ag Expo Team, which is 6 counties in the Northeast North Carolina, and we put on these variety trials. So we get about 20 different varieties for each of the different commodities, and then we do these on-farm trials in each of the 6 counties. And so it's a great way to compare how the varieties are growing on that producer's farm or on the farmer's, the land. So you can see, okay, well, this does better for me. But also then you can compare against different soil types throughout the area. So maybe in the southern end of the county, it's sandier, and our trial is in Moyock where it's really wet.
Right.
So that farmer could compare to another area that's sandy, like maybe Chowan, that has kind of a sandy soil. And so it provides a lot of information for those growers. And for the most part, the growers are interested in doing the trials because they can see on their farm, oh, okay, this one is doing better, and I can compare between the two.
Yeah, so I would guess that helps them make decisions that can really increase their income generation potential.
Absolutely. And with farming, it's all about small changes, really, because when we're talking about production, we're talking in bushels, which is pounds of whatever the thing is. Well, a 1 bushel difference may be $10 for soybeans. It may be $6 for corn or whatever the market price is. Well, that adds up if you're growing 100 acres.
Right.
So any little change that they can do, just by something like picking the right variety for their land, can have a huge impact on their yield.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, so you are planning all these variety trials in the 6 different counties on different farms. Who takes care of them, plants them? There's a lot that you can't just throw the seed out there and then come back and pick it however many months later. So how does the maintenance and all that work?
So that's a kind of collaboration with the farmers and with the expo team. So depending on the trial, either the expo team will plant it. We have equipment to do so, and that way everything is uniform at all of the sites. Or if there's a particular trial, like our corn variety trial, that's something that the farmers will plant. We're there to load up their planters to make sure it's as uniform as it can be at that site. But there's some variance depending on the harvesting equipment too. So
Gotcha.
we help them get it planted, and then they treat the field how they would treat their normal field. So
Gotcha.
they spray it with whichever herbicides or insecticides or fungicides they would normally use. They add however much fertilizer they need, and that way they can see if these were varieties that I'm taking care of on my farm, how would they do?
Gotcha. Under normal conditions, just like I take care of the rest of my farm.
Under your normal, whatever your production practice is.
Oh, that's pretty good. So you say you have variety trials. Are there any other type of field trials, on-farm tests that you guys do?
Yeah, so that's kind of the one big portion is variety trials, but another big thing is how can farmers change their production practices? And so with that Northeast Ag Expo team, we also have summer field days and winter field days. And what that is we have our winter production meetings. We ask the growers, the farmers, what are you interested in learning more about? And then we do research where we test a particular topic, whether that's something like row spacing, how close can you get the plants together, or maybe a type of fungicide or a fertilizer regimen. And we go out on a farm and we do that. And then at the winter meeting, we get all the farmers together and we can go out and look at the field and see, okay, this is what it would look like if you put out double the fertilizer or half the fertilizer or something like that.
Very cool. So what information are you as an extension agent hoping to glean from these tests?
So a lot of it is kind of replicating stuff that the researchers are doing at NC State and at other universities, but doing it in our area. So seeing if we follow these production practices in our area, do we get the same results that they get? And so we're working with them as well. And it's just, again, small changes that we can do to increase our profit for our farmers.
Absolutely. So there again, with those on-farm tests, with the production practices, they're really getting information that can reduce their costs or increase their yields or something that's going to improve their sustainability over the long term.
Absolutely. And
cool.
Another big part of it, and the on-farm thing, is kind of letting folks go out and see the tests, because seeing is really believing. So
Absolutely.
if you go out and you see, okay, well, I can cut my fertilizer and still get the same yield, the crops look the exact same, the beans are the same size or whatever, then that can help save money. So sometimes it's hard to take a practice if you're just hearing it from a specialist who maybe you don't know, do they even farm? So
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of the neat thing about the on-farm test. The farmer themselves is actually doing the bulk of the work under the guidance of extension professionals and researchers, and then me as Farmer Cameron can go down the road and see Farmer Sue did that. It worked, and I trust her. I know she's been growing for years, so that's really neat.
Yeah, and the last one we did here in Currituck was the first year I was here, which was 2019. We had the Summer Expo, so that focused on corn and soybean production. Mm-hmm. I think it was about 20 acres that we did tests on with researchers from NC State. So the farmer was there. He helped prepare the land, but then he was able to see kind of all of the changes there. But then the folks from Currituck and the surrounding counties like Camden and even folks in Virginia could come down and see, oh, okay, this is what it looks like, some of those research trials from NC State.
Yeah, absolutely, and see it actually in practice. So I know we do more than just on-farm, right? Because ag and extension is bigger than just on-farm. So can you talk about maybe some of the other demonstrations that we have about around here? Yeah,
so some of the other things we do here on our property, we have some kind of on-farm, if you will, but they're really on our facility kind of demonstration. So we have a garden that has been run kind of with the 4-H program as well, and we're doing raised beds where we're growing different types of vegetables this past summer, which was 2021, depending on when you're listening to this. we had all sorts of vegetables, and we talked about, how can you irrigate properly, set up an irrigation system. So we talked about some of the maybe nuances of gardening to help you be a little bit more successful. So we have that there. We have a teaching orchard that has been plagued by deer. So we, this past winter, so again, 2021,
that's right.
In February or March, we had a kind of an orchard class where we went over pruning and all the winter maintenance you need. Unfortunately, the deer did most of the pruning for us.
Of course.
But that's a lesson to learn too. So
yeah, I think we learned a lot of lessons in large pest management, I think, throughout the last year or two.
Yeah. What if you weren't around our office, we had a groundhog this year.
Yeah.
So hopefully we've fixed that for the upcoming year. And so our garden, at least this winter, is doing pretty well, and fall, winter, and hopefully this upcoming spring it'll continue to grow.
Absolutely.
So
I know you've got a new project that's just getting underway as well in terms of a demonstration site here on property. You wanna talk about that?
So the new thing that we're trying, and it's a big trial, is a pollinator plot. So we're setting up wildflowers. We're taking resources from different types of conservation groups from other universities and kind of putting them all together and showing folks, can you set up a wildflower plot? What's the easiest way, the lowest maintenance way to do that? Because habitat loss is the number one reason that we're losing our native pollinators.
Yeah.
And it's something that could be relatively easy if we can figure out a way to do it here. So we're hoping to take all these resources and then do them here and show folks, hey, it's not that hard to set up a plot. You can set it up along the edge of a wood line or along the edge of your fence and provide some habitat for those bees and some of the other pollinators that we have.
Absolutely. And once we can make sure and refine our processes here, then we can replicate that in homeowner trials, on individual folks' property, so we can kind of same concept as those on-farm tests.
Absolutely. And the project right now, we just had a class with our master gardeners where we went out and we seeded the plot. So we prepped it all summer. We've now seeded it. We set up an electrical fence to keep the geese out because they're another one of our big pests.
Yep.
And so far, so good. We're not sure if it's weeds coming up or if it's actually wildflowers. And we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Time will tell.
Yeah, but we're going to continue this. So one of the issues with a wildflower plot is it's a multiple year kind of thing, and it looks really ugly for the first 2 or so years. And so we're going to continue to plant them every single year, and that way folks can see the succession of a plot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's see, we've talked about how do we decide what types of demonstrations that we're going to put in? What goes into a decision like that, whether it's on-farm trials or demonstration sites here? Or
I'd like to say that it's almost entirely from the clientele. So whether it's a farmer, at our meetings we do evaluations and we see what kind of research would you like to see, or what is a big concern on your farm. And that's something every time I have a class or a program, I say, fill out the evaluation because I use this stuff to make my decisions.
Absolutely.
So that's a big thing from farmers, but also homeowners when we have classes. And then also when we are starting to get a lot of calls, it's something that I notice, hey, there's an issue in this area. Let's see if I can set up a site to show folks this is the proper way to do whatever, how to prune tomatoes or how to grow blueberries or whatever the issue is.
Absolutely. Well, very cool. Anything else you want to share with us about demonstration sites, on-farm tests, those types of things?
So we have a couple opportunities to see some of those if anybody is interested and you're listening to this around the recording date. Like I said, we had our on-farm field days. Our winter field day, which is focused on wheat production, will be in February of this year, and that's pretty much every year. So whether you're a farmer or not, that's something that might be worth coming out to. This year it's going to be in Perquimans County. And then we have a couple opportunities this upcoming spring and summer to view our horticulture on field or on site tests. So we'll have a couple gardening classes, some pruning classes, and then we're going to do another pollinator class as well. So be on the lookout for those in the spring, summer-ish of this upcoming year, 2022.
Awesome. So these are really a way where we can conduct some research that meet needs that our clientele are expressing or that we see in the research and the studies that are coming out, and really hope to improve our situation here in Currituck County through the education that we're able to do with those things.
Yeah.
So kudos to you and the ag staff, Adam, and thanks for being here for our training for today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So thanks again to our guest, Mr. Rodney Sawyer. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Rooted in Currituck. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. And if you have a story to share, connect with Currituck CES on social media or give us a call here at the Extension Center. Until next time.